Well, good evening, everybody. Well, it's evening for us who are here in Singapore, but we are joined by some people halfway across the world from us and virtually all the way across the world from us because we have a couple of tellers from Italy and one who has abandoned Mumbai for Toronto, which be interesting to find out if that was a good trade or not. So wherever you are in the world, thank you very much for listening in. And of course, how can I forget? We also have Rebecca in Spain. So we're quite far flung this evening, which is great. It's our first story swap for 2023. And I think just because of the kind of feedback we were getting from our town hall last week, we are looking to try and keep giving you opportunities to share stories. Tonight, it was very much an open story swap. We didn't want to set a theme, and I'm delighted we've got such a mix of story offers from the people that you are going to listen to today. So if we get started, we're going to start with I was about to say old, but I don't mean old just because she's been with us a long time, familiar face with the lovely Rebecca Lemaire, who's still in Spain, where I gather it's been a bit chilly. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi. It's just, hang on, I'm getting a note saying start my video, but I think it is started. Yeah.
You are. We can see you very well. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, it's a bit chilly. I've got my foot on a hot water bottle, my feet on a hot water bottle on a cushion
Oh
just out
wow!
there.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I've been away from England so long, I've forgotten what a hot water bottle is. My goodness! Wow! Wow! And how are things with you?
Good, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
good.
is the kind of storytelling world beginning to return a little bit? You're getting kind of in-person
Yeah,
gigs, that kind of thing.
slowly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. This month and next is I was actually going to go to the festival in Morocco, but I had to cancel because I suddenly got work, and after not having work for so long, face to face, I couldn't really say no. So it's workshops and performances and things. So
Wonderful,
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's always, isn't it? The curse of being a storyteller is that you get nothing, and then it just all comes like at the same time. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I've been doing online, but it's
Of
nice
course,
to also,
of
do
course.
here and for people here. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's great that you can tell for us online because Spain is a long, long, long way away from us, and we're delighted to have you with us. So, do you want to say anything about the story? Or you want to just jump straight in?
Um, well, it's a 20-minute story when I do the whole thing, although I cut it down from about 45 minutes. And
Ah,
so my idea for doing it today was to see if it still has an impact
hmm.
in 8 minutes or nine
Right.
minutes maximum. So yeah, any feedback
Okay.
on how it lands, and
Hmm.
or is it just kind of weird? So it's a bit of an experiment, and it's the first
Excellent.
time I'm doing it in English, and it's the first time I'm doing it in
Wow.
8 minutes. So to kind of see, does it still have a? Because I feel
Yep.
it's a beautiful story, but it might
Sure.
not work so short because it's useful to
Hmm.
be able to have a short version as well.
Well, thank you.
So
Great. So I hope everybody listening has paid attention to that, and Rebecca is obviously looking for us to give her some useful feedback. So over to you, Rebecca.
okay, just make sure I've got gallery on, and okay. So hi everyone. So this story comes from the times of Al-Andalus, and Al-Andalus was the name that the Muslim rulers from North Africa and Arabia gave to Spain when they were here, so the Iberian Peninsula. And this is where I live. And at that time, in the year 1000, more or less, there was this king, Al-Hudayl. And Al-Hudayl, he had promised himself, with permission of Allah, to create in his court a kind of paradise of the arts that would be the envy of other princes and kings. You see, the arts were as important as science in the Muslim courts of the time. Poetry, calligraphy, painting, dance, music, and those who provided the music and the dance most often were female slaves who were trained in art and literary schools all over Arabia and here in Al-Andalus. And so King Al-Hudayl, sent his aide to go and buy in the school with the best reputation at the time, which was here in Sevilla, close to where I live, the 12 best, most talented duels ever seen or heard in a court. And one of those was Bahar. And Bahar, she possessed this extraordinary beauty that when she danced seemed to multiply and rise above her body, a body that was a dream never seen before in a court. But much more striking than her bewitching body was her face that expressed this unparalleled happiness. She danced for those who were watching her, but it was also obvious that the delight that she gave them in turn filled her with this deep inner joy. And it was this inner joy, this inner bliss that made her truly shine. And the king, when he met her for the first time in a big celebration where he had invited all of the other kings and princes, he was mesmerized. And very soon he ordered for the party to continue without him, for his guests to be taken care of, and for the servants to bring Bahar to his apartments because he wanted to meet her alone. And Bahar, alone, she was even more. And she looked straight into his soul, he felt. And in that gaze, though, that first time he met her, he felt that he perceived something of an immutable disdain, maybe, but also complete innocence and surrender. And the king in that moment, that first time he met her alone, he felt fear. And of her, of himself, he didn't know, but to assert his authority, he reminded her that she was his, that she belonged to him. And she, looking straight into his eyes and smiling, she answered, "My lord, only my life is yours, because the rest is my gift to you." Well, I won't go into details about what happened next and why and how the king and Bahar didn't leave his apartments for 3 days and 3 nights. But the routine of the palace came back, took it to its course again. And at the beginning, Al-Hudayl, he did organize celebrations and parties to display his possession, this beautiful possession. But truth be told, as time went by, all the compliments and the envy of the other kings and princes interested him less and less. All he looked forward to was to spend time alone with Bahar. He never ceased to, he never tired of watching her dance and play her music. And she danced in, she moved in such harmony with the music that they say not even the myrtle trees and the jasmine branches swayed in such a way with the breeze. But also he loved talking to her and listening to her. She had this brilliant mind. She knew about philosophy. She knew about the natural sciences. She was wise. And so, as you can imagine, came the day when Hudayl, the king, realized he was deeply in love with Bahar, and he asked her to marry him. And she, caressing him with the tip of her fingers and with her eternal smile and gaze, she answered, "Let us talk about this another day." And then she sang a song for him. Lama bada yatathanna lama. And the next evening, the king asked her again to be his wife. And he told her of how many, all those other noblemen and kings and princes who had made of their slaves their wives. She would be free, she would be able to have property. But once again, she answered, "Let us talk about this another day." And then she played games with him and made him smile. And night after night, throughout the winter, the king asked Bahar to be his queen. And night after night, she answered, "Let us talk about this another day." So little by little, people started talking. You see, this was seen as weakness. No king had ever displayed such weakness, such humiliation, groveling in front of a slave. Usually it was the slaves who would conspire to become wives. It was unimaginable. And this whispering was not just in the palace, it was also out of the palace and beyond the borders of the kingdom. And so it was that the grand love of the King Al-Hudail became a state affair. And his advisors and the noblemen of the court, they forced him to settle the question of his marriage with his slave that same evening. So when he asked her once again, and when once again Bahar answered, "Let us talk about this another day." This time Hudail, he appealed to his status as her owner. And she, sincerely submissive, she said, "Yes, you paid a high price and you have a title of property at my name. So do with this garment whatever you deem fit." And he, desperate, he threw himself at her feet and he said, I don't want your life. I want you. I want you. And then, drying his tears and finding his pride again, he said, "I am the richest lord of Al-Andalus. I am offering you a kingdom." But she had answered that a kingdom was very little for her. And she said, "But before you order my death, listen to my reasons." And she told him that she loved him with all the strength of her being, but that she couldn't give herself to him except with the price of her life. You see, converted into his wife, she would have to be secluded and far from anyone's gaze, and forbidden forever to play her music, sing, and dance. "Without my art, I would die," she said. So, rejecting you, I come to the same thing as accepting you. But if I know that only my life belongs to you, only my life can you take away. And wherever Allah wants to reserve a place for me after my death, there I shall keep dancing for you and for the world. Al-Hudail listened silently. And that night he slept, a sound sleep for the first time in a very long time. And the next day when he reported to the court, and all of his advisors, every single one of them recommended the death penalty for the slave's continuous refusal, for her disobedience. It was the law, they said. And Al-Hudail, before passing on to another matter, he answered, "Let us talk about this another day." Thank you.
Oh, that's a beautiful ending. Beautiful ending. So listen, we've come on, let's throw this open. And does anybody want to give answer Rebecca's question? Did it stand by itself? Was it too weird? Did it come across as a fragment? How do you feel? And any
Let's
advice?
do it another day.
Very good. Very nice. Yep. That ending took me by surprise. That took me by surprise. Anybody? I saw Stefania, you were shaking your head when I was saying, does it seem like a fragment or?
No, I thought that it was great. I mean, it was short. It was also the idea of this love and passion that was growing, growing, growing. And then I think that short really worked very well. And the ending was fantastic because, I can now get out of this situation without having to give, yes, just to kill her. So
Yep.
It was great to me.
Yep.
Thanks. Good.
I felt the story absolutely worked. I love that she was more more. I thought that was fabulous, fabulous line. And the singing, you could certainly put in some more singing because you have.
Yeah, I do it with a guitarist, so we put a lot more music and poetry, and also the whole 3 days there is something about that, and she wants to teach him slow and tranquil love that doesn't let any pleasure escape, and so there's a kind of whole more sensual as well, and about there's a lot more, but yeah.
Great. So Shilpa, it's over to you now, and remind me, where are you, Shilpa?
I am in Jaipur.
In Jaipur,
India.
That's
Jaipur,
right.
yeah.
Okay. So another fort city, and I'm presumably quite a strong Islamic connection there too, because of the Mughals, right? In Jaipur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marbles. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, do you want to say anything about your story, or would you rather just jump straight in?
No, I would like to jump in straight away. Okay.
I thought so. Absolutely. Well, listen, it's over to you, girl. Off you go.
Okay. Rodney, where's Aunt Emily? Jenny asked for the 3rd time as she walked into the living room. Rodney kept his eyes glued to the video screen. How am I supposed to know, Jennifer? He had always felt that his sister Jennifer tries to order him whenever she calls him Rodney. Come on, Rod. I asked you to watch Aunt Em while I took a shower. You did? Who? Me? Rod, please. When I got into the shower, she was in the kitchen cleaning the sink like she does at least 10 times every day. And now she's gone. Jenny was moving around the room, looking out all the windows. Honestly, I don't know, Jen. I don't even remember you asking me to watch her. I can't find her anywhere, and Mom should be home from dentist in less than an hour. Where do you think she would go? I don't know. But we have to find her. She could get hurt or something, and now Jenny was sounding frantic. Rod raced to the back door. Aunt Emily's blue fur coat was hanging on a hook right next to his jacket. Jenny, look! We better take her coat. And as he opened the back door, a gust of cold November wind whooshed into the house. Aunt Em could really get sick if she's outside too long. You check the yard and the garage. I'll go down the block. She might have tried going down to the beach again. Now, Rod and Jenny lived 5 miles from the closest beach, and Aunt Emily was Grandma Bernie's oldest sister. Rod used to have fun with Aunt Emily, but now Aunt Emily forgot things on a regular basis, like where she was or what day it was. The doctor said she had Alzheimer's disease. She didn't look sick or anything, but she just said weird things, and sometimes she didn't know who Rod and Jenny were. One day, when Rod came home from school, she had locked the door. She kept shouting and asking him who he was. Rodney. Rodney who? I'm your sister's grandson. Grandson? Oh, don't be ridiculous. Bernie is only 12 years old. Yeah, that would be pretty funny, wouldn't it? Rod laughed too, because that was the only way to handle Aunt Emily when she said things like that. Rod and Jenny's house was on a dead-end street, so checking their block for Aunt Emily didn't take long. Jenny was in the front yard holding Aunt Emily's coat. She looked like she had just swallowed a whole red pepper. Her eyes were red and watery. Rod, Nicholas said he just saw Aunt Em about 5 minutes ago. She was headed toward Devon Road. A huge lump formed in Rod's throat. He could hardly squeak out the words. Let's go. Just then, Jenny grabbed Rod's arm. Rod, we should pray about this. You're right, but I think today we pray while we run. It was only 3 blocks to Devon Road, but Rod had plenty of time to pray. He asked God to please protect Aunt Emily and to help them find her. As they turned round the corner onto Devon Road, Rod could see Aunt Emily about a block away. She was standing on a cement island in the middle of a 4-lane highway. Cars were whizzing by on both her sides. She had her hand up as if she thought the cars would stop. Rod was just about to yell when Jenny grabbed his arm. Rod, don't yell and pray. She doesn't see us. She might just step off the island right in front of a car. What are we going to do? I don't know. And Jenny covered her face with her hands and started to sob. Aunt Em belongs to you, God. He reminded God again. Please, please help us. And he snatched Aunt Emily's blue coat and rushed along the roadside. When he got directly across from her, he crouched down and waited. It seemed like forever. Cars, vans, pickup trucks zoomed past between Aunt Emily and him. She just kept standing there with her hand up. Finally, Rod saw a break in the traffic. He lunged across the highway and grabbed Aunt Emily firmly by the arm. Rod said as calmly as he could, Aunt Em, you must be cold. Here's your coat. Aunt Emily looked at him with a blank expression on her face. Inside of his head, he was crying, please, God, make her know me. And slowly, a familiar smile stretched across her face. Thank you, Rodney. It's getting chilly out. A feeling of relief and gratefulness rushed through his entire body. Rod took Aunt Emily's arm, trusting God to help him with the next step. This is a really busy road, Aunt Em. Can you help me cross and get home? Hold my hand, Rodney. I'll take care of you. And Aunt Emily clutched his hand tightly as they waited for a break in the heavy traffic. Be careful, Rodney. This is a very busy street, dear. When they had safely reached the other side of the street, Jenny was anxiously waiting for them. Jennifer, what are you doing here? Aunt Emily asked. I'd better get both of you home before your mother finds out you have been near this busy road. As they walked home, Jenny whispered, thanks, Rod. Don't thank me, Jenny. Thank him, he said, pointing one finger towards the heaven. Thank you.
Whoops, I was muted there. Thank you. Where's that story from? Did you write that?
No, a bit of it actually, I tweaked it a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I read somewhere something on these lines, so then I slightly tweaked it.
Okay. So, you read it in a book somewhere, is it?
Yeah, long time back. I think it was almost 2 years back.
Ah, okay. Okay. And where do you think the story was set?
No, actually, it was not mentioned. It was, just in a book.
Yeah, sure.
I came across. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And now we are going to move on to our next teller, who is the furthest from us, Vanita. Welcome. Thank you for joining us from Toronto. So what time is it there with you now?
It's about 7 a.m. in the morning.
Is it normal that you get up this early?
No, I'm not a early morning person. And I go according to my body's biorhythm. I was born 12:05 in the afternoon. So anytime 2 hours before, 2 hours after that is my productive time. Rest of the time, I mean, like, I am not early morning person. For an
Wow.
Indian, it's something weird because Indians wake up very early, 4, 5. No, if you wake me up early, you're waking up a sleeping lion.
Oh my goodness. Well, I hope you've kind of declawed.
So this is a story about a gardener and his 2 pots. A master who had a huge garden employed a gardener and asked him to water his plants every day. Just a moment. I think if I take away my virtual setting, it'll look better.
Maybe, yes.
Yeah, but at least this is better.
There you go.
I don't
Very
want to come
good.
back
Yeah.
to normalcy now. So, okay, we leave it.
That's very
Sorry.
good. Not at all.
And this gardener, he had 2 clay pots. He went to the stream every day to fill his clay pots with water, and he walked to the garden to water the plants. While one pot delivered full measure of water, the other pot was cracked and could only deliver half its capacity. 2 years went by, and at the end of the second year, the cracked pot was very upset. It went to the gardener and spoke to him. It said, "Master, I'm so ashamed of myself. I'm not able to fulfill my duty, and I have let you down. I apologize for that." The gardener asked the pot, "What is there to apologize to me for? Why are you ashamed of yourself? Come, let me show you something that you have created." So he walked the pot along the route that he took every day, and told him, "I used your weakness to my advantage, and have planted beautiful flower seeds on which your water was dripping every day, and it gave us beautiful flowers, while the path of the other clay pot never gave anything. So your flowers I have used to adorn my master's table, and he is very happy with my work, which couldn't have happened without your crack. And you should be now feeling very, very proud that you have helped me and made me a proud gardener. Without your crack, it wouldn't have happened." So this is based on the principle of wabi-sabi, the Japanese principle to see perfection in imperfections and to create self-love, which is so important these days, and to make use of your disadvantages to your advantage. And thank you very much. I wanted it to be a very short story because that was the mail sent to me. I couldn't find anything small. So thank you all very much. I hope you all like it, and any comments of how I can improve would be thankful.
Thank you very much, Vanita. We like that very much indeed. You're right. I'm sure a lot of us know it. I myself have told it quite often with a partner, and we do it as a bilingual tandem. And I've done it both with a Hindi-speaking partner and a Tamil-speaking partner. What is your mother tongue?
That's a good question. I was born in Tamil Nadu. I speak Tamil. I was brought up in Hyderabad. I speak Telugu. I was married and lived in Karnataka. I speak Kannada. Then Hindi is almost like my second tongue, and English is the home language.
Very good. Well, for our next teller, Zip, it's time to come to you. As somebody else who has a podcast. Can I have a quick show of hands? How many people here tonight have actually got a podcast or a part of a podcast? It's just that we've got 3. I can see 3 hands up together. Well, and they're all on my second row on my screen. How appropriate. So Zip, welcome back again. It's good to have you with us. I'm glad you managed to get the baby down. Okay. So are you?
Speak louder.
Oh, we can. Okay. 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 Okay, so very good. That's good. So, do you want to say anything about your story, or do you just want to jump straight in?
Oh, I like to spend 30 seconds about me and my story, and then I'll jump straight in.
That's good. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sip, as you can say from my name, and I'm from Vietnam, currently living in Singapore. But before moving here, I spent 7 years in New Zealand. And that was the time when I got to learn about the culture of Maori people. They are the indigenous Polynesian people of mainland New Zealand. And there is a rich tradition of storytelling in Maori culture. So today, I'm telling you a story about their hero. His name is Maui, and he is also known as the Sun Catcher. Now let's listen to the story and find out why. Many, many years ago, the sun raced across the sky so fast that every day the earth was plunged into darkness in no time at all. There was hardly enough time to do all that needed to be done in a day. People couldn't do much about it, but Maui thought he would try. He gathered his 4 brothers and told them, "Let us catch the sun and make him move more slowly." But his brothers just laughed at the ideas. "That's impossible. The sun will burn us." But Maui didn't give up. He said, "I have a plan. We can make ropes, strong ropes from flax. And then we can catch the sun when it rises. Trust me, we can do it. And we can catch the sun. We can slow it down. And if the sun does slow down, we have so much more time to hunt, to fish, and to eat." His brothers seemed somehow convinced, and they started to help Maui cut the flax. And then they plaited ropes. And as they worked, Maui chanted. He chanted the magic melody to give the ropes the power they needed to hold the mighty sun. When the ropes were ready, Maui and his brothers set off on a journey to where the sun rose. They only traveled in the long nights because they didn't want the sun to know they were coming. It was so many miles to the home of the sun. And as they reached closer and closer, the ground became hotter under their feet. And finally, they reached a great pit from which the sun would rise. Maui told his brothers, "My brothers, just help me build a wall to hide behind. Hurry up, please, because the sun is about to wake up." So very quickly, they built a wall of clay and hid themselves. They crouched when the ground started to tremble and shake. Maui whispered to his brothers, "Please don't throw the ropes until I say so. And once we have caught the sun, do not let it go." Just then, the fiery flame rose above the wall, but Maui didn't move at all. He endured the heat. Then came the whirling eyes of the sun, but they were all standing still. Finally, there came the white hot teeth of the sun. When Maui shouted, "Now, my brothers!" All the ropes snapped In the air, they tangled in the sun's fiery hair and looped around his big, huge body. Maui leaped onto the wall and raised the magic jawbone from his grandfather. He smashed it with all of his strength onto the sun's head. The sun screamed in agony, "Stop, stop, you're gonna kill me." But Maui just said, "No, I'm not gonna kill you, but I'm gonna make you move slowly. No longer will you dictate the length of our days. From now on, you will move more slowly." And after a long and violent fight, the sun started to grow weak and tired. And then Maui told his brothers to let go of the ropes. Just then, the tired sun drifted slowly across the sky. From then on, Maui and his people had more than enough time to hunt, to fish, to work, and to gather food. And even now, if you look closely enough, you might be able to see the magic ropes that binds the sun to the earth. The end.
Lovely, lovely. Thanks. I love the way you just kind of did that thing through your hair there with the ropes kind of tangled with the sun. I thought it was brilliant. Can I just say on behalf of Sheila and all the directors, could you ask Maui to go and do it again, please? Because we do need more time. We continually say we don't have enough time in the day, and I really need, use your Maori connections, please, and ask him to go and just kind of, do it again, please. Okay.
We'll do it again. Oh, if you buy me a ticket back to New Zealand, oh, that'll be easy.
No problem. Thanks very much. I really enjoyed that. Lovely story. Really clear, very enjoyable.
Just want to say a few things that in Maori culture, the hands and body movements are very strong in their music and culture. So all the things like this, or if you have watched any of the videos, you might see that they have all of this. It means something really important to them. And they are fishing people, they're ocean people. They crossed the ocean came to New Zealand many years ago. So it's all about the sea and, fishing, stuff like that. Yeah.
Sure. Good. Thank you. Well, we're going to go from one island over here to an island that is far, far away, and not an island, but Ireland, as it's time for us to say hi to Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer.
Right, unmute myself.
That's
Hello.
Good. Hi
everybody.
there.
Hello.
Very good. It's good. I'm glad you can join us. I think this is the first time that you're telling a story on Feast.
Oh yes, I'm just sort of starting off telling stories, as it were. So I thought I would try to tell you this one. Sorry, it's not an Irish story or anything like that.
That's okay. We won't hold that against you at all. That's great.
So my story is about a little bird called Tazoo, and he lived in the darkest jungle in Peru. And he was a lovely, charming little bird, little dumpy little fellow with an arched beak and green plumage and lovely little wings with like fans, and a lovely long tail with a fan at the end. And he had a ruby throat and a white collar. Oh, he was a pretty little bird. And he loved his home in the jungle, and he had many friends in the jungle, all sorts of species of animals, and like pumas and tigers and elephants, and he had all varieties of butterflies and all the different types of hummingbirds of different colors. And he would zoom around enjoying himself, and he had a great sense of seeing and smelling and hearing, and he would hear butterflies on the wing, and he would watch monkeys swinging from tree to tree, and he really enjoyed himself. And one day he was out flying about, and he heard this funny sound, and he wondered what it could be. And then he smelt something. It was a smoky smell. So he thought he would go that wee bit nearer to where this was happening. So he zoomed down, and there was this smoke, and underneath the smoke were the flames leaping, and underneath that were the grasses all being scorched and all blackened. And he was very sorry for what was happening. And then he looked up at the trees, and the wind had blown the fire, and it had leapt towards the trees, and the leaves were blackening, and the branches were blackening, and it even went up to the Spanish moss and ruined it. And Tazoo was very sorry to see this, and he sat on a branch and was very sad. And then, as he was there, he saw all his friends all running or flying past. All the birds were flying to save their plumage and not to get hurt. And then there were the monkeys and whatnot swinging away out of the forest, and there were the elephants and all running away from the dreadful stench of the smoke and the wildfires. And a monkey said, "Oh, come on, Tazoo, come on now. Fire, we must get out of here. You're going to get hurt." But Tazoo thought, "Oh, well, I could go with them." He said, and then he decided, he said to himself, "Oh, what gets out of fire? Oh yes, water." So he went to the nearest stream, and he got some water with his elegant beak. And he got a little drop of water, and he flew back to where the fire was, and he dropped the drop of water on the fire. And nothing happened. The fire was still there. So he went back to the stream, which flowed into the Amazon, and he took another little drop of water and with his elegant beak, and he flew back to the source of the fire, and he dropped the drop of water again, and nothing happened. And he went back and forth and back and forth, the fire, the stream, the fire, the stream. And then he heard a shout, "Oh, come on, Tazoo, you can't get that fire out," said a monkey. "You can't get it out. You're going to ruin, look at your plumage, you're all singed and smelly, and that's so silly staying there." But Tazoo was determined to go on. He was going to do what he could. He was so determined. So he went on and on and on with the little drops of water. But did he get Did he get the fire out, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? No, he didn't get the fire out. And he still kept going. He didn't give up. But as he was working away doing this, sitting on the silver clouds up above were the Inca gods. And they were looking down at little Tazoo, and they admired this little heart of courage. And they thought he was trying so hard, and they were so sorry and so sad for him. And what do you do when you're so sorry and sad? Yes, that's right, everybody. You cry. So little tears of rain dropped on the forest, on the rainforest or the jungle. Little tears of rain all over. And then bigger globules of rain fell on the forest. And then buckets of rain came down on the forest. And little Tazoo watched on a branch. And eventually, the forest fire was quenched, and there was just this steam rising up off the ground and off the trees. And he looked around, and it was all blackened and terrible. It wasn't like the home he knew. And he felt very sorry, and he sat on a branch, and he tried to fly about, but things weren't quite the same. And then one day he looked, and he saw blades of grass growing on the forest floor, and he was filled with hope. And then he looked over at the trees, and he saw leaves, and he saw lichen growing on the trunks, and he saw Spanish moss forming, and it gave him a lot of hope. And then as the days wore on, he had a big surprise. All his friends came back. Yes, mice and monkeys jumping from tree to tree, and elephants and tigers and pumas and all the different sorts. And even the llamas came in from the plains to see the jungle. And hello, Tazoo, they said. We're back again. Tazoo was all delighted to see them. He was so delighted. He sat on a twig, and he did what all little birds do when they're happy. Yes, indeed. He started to sing. Tweet, tweet. And that's it.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. Very nice. You have a wonderful voice. I must confess, I'm very partial to all forms of the Irish accent. It's just musical. You have that's a great asset that you have there. So now can we move on to John? It's been a long time. Are you here, John? Yes. How are you, sir? Gosh.
Well, I want to say one thing. Is that the lady Yip? That was the Vietnamese lady?
Zip.
Yes.
Zip, right. She was from Vietnam to Singapore. I'm from Singapore to Vietnam.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I'm in Saigon now.
Oh,
I've been
in
living here for
Saigon.
2 years.
Oh,
So
wow. Yes.
as Rogers always like to tell us, we need to rush on. So my story is about, and I'm sure Japanese, Korean, Chinese are celebrating the year of the, let's see, what is it? Yes, the water rabbit. But here in Vietnam, they did do something different. We are celebrating the year of the metal cat. You may be wondering why. Okay, so there are a few theories. First off, is this. As you know, it's for those who are familiar with Vietnam history, Vietnam was occupied for nearly 1,000 years by China, right? And so some theories say that in the old Vietnamese, the word Mao, which is for rabbit, sounds like the word Mao, which is for cat. But I feel that a more probable theory is this. As most Vietnamese are farmers, why would I want a rabbit that's eating my vegetables and crops? No, but the cat will eat the rat. And then this could be the story. Long time ago, the Jade Emperor looked. Man, war, man, greedy, man, evil. No, 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 no. Man cannot represent me. And he looked around the earth. I will call the animals to represent me. So he sent a message far and wide, east, west, north, and south. There will be a great race. And the winner, the 12 winners, whichever comes first to the last of the 12 will represent the Chinese, or rather the Vietnamese zodiac, excuse me. Now, the cat was fat and lazy. Oh. And he had a best friend, the mouse, no, the rat, who lived next door to him. And the cat said, my friend, you know, I like to wake up at 11 a.m. after we play Roblox together, we play Minecraft together, we play catching. No. When we were slimmer, we play catching together. So my friend, can you wake me up at 6 a.m. because the race is at 8 and any time to roll off the bed and you know. The rat said, of course I know. I hear you snoring every night. I can't sleep through the night. Oh, sorry, my friend. Sorry. Sorry. Okay, because we are best friends. We play Roblox together. It's a computer game. We play Minecraft together, another computer game. And yeah, when we were slimmer, we played catching together. I will wake you up. So on the day of the race, as you know, the rat couldn't sleep. The cat was like, and the rest. So they woke up, they went to the race together. Oh my, there was so many animals. There was a dragon, there was the buffalo. In Vietnamese culture, we use the buffalo, not the ox. There was the dog, there was a pig. Oh my. The cat said to the rat, oh my, they're so big and so mighty. Will they trample on us? We're so tiny. The rat said, do not worry, my friend. I have a plan to do. And he looked around. He saw the big water buffalo chewing his cud. Yes, he went up to the come, my friend. Follow me, said to the rat. Okay. So they went up to the water buffalo and the rat said, Buffalo, we see you all the time. You know, I give you nice, sweet, juicy stuff to eat. Some of the corn, some of the rice. The water buffalo said, yes. No. Can we go on top of your head? On top of your head, so we will be safe from all these big animals. The water buffalo is not very clever, said, okay. But he was loyal, so okay, you can come on my head. So the cat and the rat went on the water buffalo's head. The Jade Emperor said, ready, set, go. And off they went. The water buffalo was fast. The cat was holding. The rat was like holding on to like a pirate holding on to the mast as he went on. And then the water buffalo went past a river. The rat said, look, over there. Do not see a fish? Look over there. The cat was like, fish, where? Over there, where? The rat said, over there. And with a martial art kick, and he kicked the cat down in the water. No more best friend. The poor cat splashed into the water, and the water buffalo went and the rat went bye. No more snoring. And at the finishing line, the water buffalo thought, oh, I'm going to win. And the rat was clever. He jumped off and won by a nose. Now the cat was saying, ah! Well, this in our story, the cat can swim. It swam. I will not lose. I will not lose. And he managed to be behind the tiger. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, for the Vietnamese New Year, we have the tiger followed by the cat, because the moral story is that is why the cat is constantly chasing the rat. And the Vietnamese decided, no. What's the point of having a rabbit that damages our crops? Let's have the cat instead. So once again, for the Japanese, Koreans, and the Chinese, we will celebrate the water rabbit. But in Vietnam, we celebrate the metal cat. So as we would say in Vietnamese, Chúc mừng năm mới, that means Happy New Year. Thank you.
Oh, wow. I felt I was watching a video game there, John. You were so animated. I mean, it was a mix of like the Matrix here, and then a bit of like, you know, Disney or Nickelodeon, as you kind of were playing the different animals and all the sound effects and everything. It was great fun. I tell a much more staid version, just using Kamishibai, and of course it's the Chinese version, not the Vietnamese. Thank you for sharing that. And I was watching Zip very closely to see if she was going to go here and react, but she was nodding her head and smiling. So I think you got that pretty much right. So yes, and she was obviously very happy when you used the Vietnamese at the end of your story. You should listen to one of her podcasts, because she's working towards that and trying to tell it bilingually, so that kids who are perhaps growing up outside Vietnam can actually hear some Vietnamese in a story. Now we move on, moving back west again to Italy. We're going to close with two Italian storytellers, which is a first for Feast, but it's certainly not a first for Stefania, who has been telling regularly with us ever since taking part in the mentorship, if I've got that correct. Yes?
Yes, that's right.
Very good. So over to you.
Yes, I'd like to say a few words about the story. Well, it's not really a folk tale, more like a legend that comes from Friuli, which is my region of birth. Actually, I don't live there anymore. And it's the most northeastern region of Italy, which lies on the border with Slovenia to the east and Austria to the north, for the ones of you who knows a little bit of European geography. And I just came across it just by chance, actually. It was a really very short story. It was just, I think, 5 lines long, but it somehow resonated with me immediately, because it had to do with the Tagliamento River, which is a river that crosses my region. And it's a place that is deeply connected with my most beautiful childhood memories. And so I just wanted to try and develop a story from those few lines. And so this is the first time I tell this story. So please, any feedback will be very welcome. This story started in a small village lying by the Tagliamento River at the foot of the Alps. It was a cold and dark winter day, but at that time, not only the sky was dark, but also the villagers' hearts. Because a terrible war had just ended, which had brought hunger and poverty, but above all, death in almost every household. And so all families had somehow shut themselves up in their pain and desperation. And so the villagers stopped speaking with each other. They stopped communicating. And so the streets of the village were now deadly silent. Now, in that village lived also a washerwoman who had a very special gift. She could hear the voice of the river. Yes, because you must know that the Tagliamento River has a unique characteristic. It is a resurgence river, which means that along its bed, its waters sometimes disappear, and then they reappear somewhere else. But the places where they disappear and then where they reappear are not always the same. And since at that time there were no geographical studies, it was not always easy to find water, not easy for anyone except for the washerwoman, because she had the voice of the river to guide her. And in that specific post-war period, well, that was really a gift, because in winter it was very cold and the water froze deeply in the fountains and wells, and nobody could afford to waste food to eat and defrost the water just to wash their clothes. And so in the village, the washerwoman was the only one who could do the job, and it was a hard job. But, well, it allowed her to earn just enough to feed her 6 children after her husband had died in the war. Now that day, the washerwoman had woken up very early, as she usually did, and she walked down to the river, carrying on her head a basket full of dirty clothes. And she spent the day by the river, washing, with her hands constantly immersed in icy cold water. And her hands hurt now, and she no longer felt her fingertips. And sometimes she feared that her hands could turn into ice and detach from her body and be carried away by the current. And if she looked at her hands, she was ashamed, because she was still young, but she had the hands of an old woman, callous, rough hands with a hard skin. Now it was already dark and the washerwoman was walking home. At that time, there were no street lamps, and so the dirt road, which was bordered by river stones, was lit only by the moonlight. And the washerwoman was walking slowly, with her back bent under the weight of the basket on her head, and with her eyes following the river stones just to follow the road. And she suddenly saw something green glittering on the road ahead. And when she got closer, she could see that it was a green salamander. It was quite big, and she was desperately trying to cross the river stones just to get away from the road. But it seemed that she was too heavy to be able to do it. And so the washerwoman put down a basket, and she knelt down just to help the salamander. And when she lifted her with her hands, she understood why she was so heavy. The salamander was pregnant. Oh, little salamander, I know that giving birth may be hard and painful, but don't worry. Everything will go well, and your children will be the greatest joy of your life. Sorry if my hands are a bit rough and hard, she said, gently stroking the salamander's head. And then she let down the salamander on the grass, far away from the road. And she said, "Goodbye, my friends. You're safe here. Don't worry, everything will go well." And as soon as she stood up to walk away, she felt a warm gust of wind. And before her eyes, the green salamander turned into a beautiful girl, with hair as blonde as wheat, and with eyes as blue as the river water, and with a long green dress. It was Inagana, a river fairy. "Your hands may be hard and rough, but not your heart and soul," she said. "Thank you. You have saved me and my child. Now please let me help you too. And take this bowl of wool, so that you will be able to make warm clothes for your children, and your children will be no longer cold." And the washerwoman, she took a bowl of wool. It was a really tiny bowl of green wool. What could it do with such a small bowl, she thought. But then she immediately regretted for that thought, that she just wanted to say, "Thank you." But the Agana had already disappeared. And so she put the bowl of wool in her pocket. She filled the basket of clothes again on her head, and she walked home. And that night, when her children were asleep, she took off the bowl of wool and she started to knit. This won't be enough even for half a glass for my youngest child, she thought. But then, to her great astonishment, she found out that the more she knitted, the longest the ball of wool became. And so she was able to make warm clothes for her children and for herself. But then she thought that that gift would be greater if it was shared. And so she knocked at the door of neighbors with whom she had no longer talked for ages now. And she offered them the magic ball of wool so that they could too make warm clothes for themselves. And then her neighbors did the same with their neighbors, and those neighbors with their neighbors, and so on and so forth. And so one after the other, the villagers started to talk again. They started to help again each other. And they became again a community connected by an invisible thread of wool. And it is said that still today in that village, that ball of wool is passed down from mother to daughter, from generation to generation, so that that invisible thread will never be broken again.
Ah, beautiful story. Beautiful story. I would love to know what were the 5 sentences that started. I mean, you know, that you managed to create this and grow it rather like that ball of string. I guess there was that, you know, you've got these 5 sentences, and it's a story that keeps on giving this and more and more. Beautifully done, Stefania. Beautifully done.
Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you. And so we come to our last story for this evening, and it's my pleasure to welcome to Feast again is Elena. I say again, hi Elena, because while she hasn't actually told this story, she did have a very long interview with Sheila and Jiva and myself, because Elena has this amazing podcast where she talks to storytellers from all around the world. And she very wisely thought that she would like to find out a little bit more about Asian storytelling, and that led her to the doors of Feast.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. And I just wanted to add that Jiva was also, although she wasn't part of the interview, she tells her wonderful story about Gunnarsson is dead. So if you haven't heard her tell that story, the price of that alone is worth listening to the podcast. So Elena, thank you very much for remembering us and coming back.
Well, my story comes from a Swahili tradition. I decided to share it with you because this story has reached me in different parts of my life, in different languages, basically French, Italian, and English, and in 2 different versions. So once I've listened in French, and the other 2 times it reached me through written version. So it's the first time I tell it in English. I usually tell it in French and in Italian, and I usually, it's recurrent in my podcast as well, because I think it gives a good sense of what sharing stories and storytelling is. Voila, so I thought it could be a good way to kick off for me a feast swap, story swap. Voila. So the story goes like this. In a kingdom very, very far away where I am here in Florence, and very far away where you are all now, there is a king. This king lives in a beautiful palace on the top of a hill. It is surrounded by tall and thick walls and on the southern part there is a gate, a tall gate in wood decorated by brass. Though that I've been lucky enough to go through the gate, or to look through the gate, know that there is a beautiful garden, tall trees, very old, coming from different parts of the world, fruit trees, plants and flowers. And then after the garden, there is the royal palace, a black-white block, a white stone block with small windows on the wall. And there the king, a power and wealthy king, lives with his wife. The queen is a thin, sad, and pale woman though. So every day the king is at work and he reads his book, he writes documents, meets traders, counselors, diplomats from all over the world. And then at a certain point at the day, at his desk, he stops. He closes his eyes and thinks, this cannot last any longer. My wife is not the woman I met and fell in love with several years ago. I've tried everything I could. We met the best doctors in the kingdom. We traveled the world. I bought her the most beautiful gifts and offered her the most delicious foods, and nothing has worked out. So one of these days, the king stands up from his desk, walks up and down in his office, and then suddenly stops in front of a window and look through it and see how beautiful his fruit, flowers, and then he sees a beautiful, fat, healthy and smiling woman walking through the garden with a basket of food. And then this woman stops in front of the gardener. She looks at him, leaves the basket, and then goes away and leaves the palace. The king immediately runs down the stairs, leaves the palace, walks through the garden, and stops in front of the gardener and says, I want to know. Sorry, Your Majesty. She was my wife and I don't care. I don't want to know that. I want to know, how is that possible that your wife is so beautiful, so healthy, so fat and smiling? Well, sir, the gardener replies, every day, it doesn't matter what, I feed the meat of the tongue. The meat of the tongue? Is that all? Yes, sir, that's all. The king leaves the gardener, walks back again the palace, runs to the kitchen and stops in front of the cook. Tomorrow, I want that you prepare a feast for me and for my wife, a feast made of dishes of the meat of the tongue, whatever animals you will find in the kingdom. I want those kind of dishes on my table in the dining hall. The cook bows and goes. The following day, the king at lunchtime goes into the dining room and sees a huge table in the middle of the hall, full of dishes of tongue, cow tongue, sheep tongue, chicken, rabbit tongues, accompanied with all sorts of sauces, different colors, and the smell of the spices coming word, filling the room. So the king walks and goes and looks for his wife in her apartment. They walk through the corridor together. They enter the dining hall, and the king looks at his wife and says, my love, this is what I ask for you to be prepared, your lunch, your food for the day. As soon as the queen sees all those tongues and smell all that spice in the room, and she runs away, goes back to her apartments. So the king again goes down the stairs, leave the palace, walk through the garden, and stop in front of the gardener. You told me that the secret was the meat of the tongue, but this has not worked with my wife. So we will do that. As of tomorrow morning, my will go and live with you. But His Majesty, a very modest hut at the end of the village, very close to the forest. I don't care. My wife, the queen, will go and live with you in your very modest hut, and your wife will come and live with me in the royal palace. The days go by, the weeks go by, and then 6 months go by, and the queen come back to the palace accompanied by the gardener. She goes through the gates, the garden, the stairs, and she enters the office of the king. He's sitting down at his desk, and as soon as he sees his wife back, he stares at her and says, "My love, you are back. Beautiful smile, the same the day I met you and fell in love with you many years ago." While he's saying this, the gardener looks around the room to find his wife, and he sees her sitting in a corner in the dark, very thin, sad, and pale. And then the king looks at two women, saying, now someone has to say to me what has happened in the last 6 months. At that point, the gardener's wife stands up, walks close to the king and says, "Your Majesty, I will explain to you. My husband, your gardener, every day after work, whatever it happens, whatever we have on the table to eat, he will start telling me stories. How we water your plants, how we pick the juicy fruit out of your trees. And then when he finished telling this, he will start telling me tales and word. And then when he finishes, he will start playing music and sing songs for me. And this is the way we spend. This way, I feel like being in the paradise. In that exact point, the king understands the meaning of meat of the tongue.
Thank you. Oh, that's a very different version from the way that I tell it. Lovely to hear it. Yours is much more romantic than mine. Thank you for taking us to that castle. I bet Stefania was having a bit of a kind of a flush, because your story about also had a king and a queen who wasn't appreciated, and there were flowers in it. And I thought, oh, is this going to be a variation? But was a completely different story altogether. So yes, the meat of the tongue. The good meat are the stories, are the words that we say to one another, correct? But the bad meat of the tongue is when we put people down and say, loser, and I don't like you, and you failed again. So please, when I take it into schools, Elena, I always say, what is the point of us teaching you how to speak good English, proper English, if you're only going to use that to give them bad meat and say, you're no good, you're hopeless, you're useless, I don't like you, go away. It's really important. So I hope today, I think we've been fed a lot of good meat, high quality meat. I apologize to all the vegans here. We may well have some of our Indian members who are vegetarian, but I'm sure you appreciate that we're just talking metaphorically here, and that I don't want to force feed you like some goose in order to produce a wonderful fat liver. But yeah, it's been really nice. I've really enjoyed listening to all the stories. Exactly as Shilpa has said, I've loved all the stories, the variety, the sound of the voices. So thank you very much. Can we give all our tellers a big round of applause?